Did you know that what you eat for breakfast could be determining your mood throughout the entire day? And I'm not just talking about energy. I'm talking about real diagnosable depression that affects more than 300 million people worldwide. Today, I am going to reveal the scientific connection between the processed foods you consume every day and the alarming increase in depression cases, especially here in the United States. Let's start with a shocking fact. Recent studies published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition show that people who consume a diet rich in ultra-processed foods are 22% more likely to develop depression compared to those who follow a whole foods-based diet. 22%. This is not a coincidence. This is pure science, and I'm going to explain exactly why. First, we need to understand what really happens in your brain when you eat that frozen burger, that sugar-filled breakfast cereal, or that processed pizza. Your brain has something called the gut-brain axis, a bidirectional communication pathway between your digestive system and your central nervous system. This connection is so powerful that scientists now call your gut the second brain. And here's the problem. Processed foods systematically destroy this communication. When you consume ultra-processed foods, rich in refined sugars, trans fats, and chemical additives, you're literally feeding the bad bacteria in your gut. These pathogenic bacteria produce inflammatory substances that travel through your bloodstream to your brain, triggering a process called neuroinflammation. And here's the scary part. Chronic neuroinflammation is one of the main risk factors for depression, anxiety, and even neurodegenerative diseases. But the story gets even deeper. Your gut produces 90% of your body's serotonin, 90%. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of well-being, happiness, and emotional stability. When you regularly consume processed foods, you're destroying the beneficial bacteria that are essential for adequate serotonin production. It's like cutting off the fuel supply to your natural happiness system. Now let me talk about something the food industry doesn't want you to know. Ultra-processed foods are scientifically designed to addict you. They contain a specific combination of sugar, salt, and fat that activates the same reward centers in the brain as drugs like cocaine and heroin. Researchers at the University of Michigan discovered that processed foods have an addictive potential comparable to controlled substances. This means that when you feel like you can't stop eating those chips or those cookies, it's not a lack of willpower. It's brain chemistry. And there's more. Every time you consume these foods, you create a vicious cycle. Refined sugar causes rapid spikes in blood glucose, followed by sharp crashes. These crashes trigger anxiety, irritability, fatigue, and intense cravings for more sugar. Your body enters a state of constant stress, elevating cortisol levels. The stress hormone, chronically elevated cortisol, is directly linked to depression, weight gain, insomnia, and weakened immune system. Let's talk about food additives. Artificial colors, preservatives like sodium benzoate, monosodium glutamate, and artificial sweeteners like aspartame have been associated with mood changes and cognitive function. A study from Harvard Medical School demonstrated that certain food additives can interfere with neurotransmitter function, especially in people genetically predisposed to mood disorders. This means that diet drink you think is being healthy could be sabotaging your mental health. Here's another critical factor: nutritional deficiencies. Processed foods are empty calories. They don't contain the essential micronutrients your brain needs to function properly. B-complex vitamins, especially B12, B6, and folate, are crucial for neurotransmitter production. Magnesium, zinc omega-3, vitamin D, all of these nutrients are fundamental for mental health. When you base your diet on processed foods, you're creating deficiencies that your brain simply cannot compensate for. The issue of trans fats deserves special attention. These artificial fats, found in margarines, fried foods, and industrialized baked goods, don't just clog your arteries. They incorporate into brain cell membranes, altering their structure and function. Research published in the American Journal of Psychiatry shows that people with higher consumption of trans fats have up to 48% higher risk of developing depression. 48%. Now, let's connect all these dots. When you regularly consume ultra-processed foods, you're simultaneously destroying your gut microbiota, reducing serotonin production, causing neuroinflammation, creating chemical dependence, dysregulating your blood sugar levels, chronically elevating cortisol, introducing neurotoxins through additives, creating severe nutritional deficiencies, and altering the structure of your brain cells. Each of these factors individually increases the risk of depression. Now imagine all of them happening at the same time, every day, meal after meal. The good news is that this is completely reversible. Nutritional intervention studies show that when people replace processed foods with a Mediterranean diet rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, fish, nuts, and olive oil, depression symptoms improve significantly in just 12 weeks. 12 weeks. An Australian study called the SMILES trial demonstrated that dietary intervention was more effective than social support therapy for treating moderate to severe depression. What you need to understand is that every meal is an opportunity to nourish or harm your brain. When you choose whole foods, you're providing the building blocks your brain needs to produce neurotransmitters, reduce inflammation, and maintain a healthy mind. You're literally building a more resilient and happier brain. So, what can you do immediately? Start by gradually eliminating ultra-processed foods. Read the labels. If it has more than 5 ingredients, or if you can't pronounce the names, leave it on the shelf. Increase consumption of foods rich in omega-3, like salmon, sardines, walnuts, and flax seeds. These fatty acids are powerful anti-inflammatories and essential for brain structure. Add fermented foods like kefir, natural yogurt, kimchi, and sauerkraut to restore your microbiota. Prioritize dark leafy green vegetables, rich in folate and magnesium. The transformation doesn't happen overnight, but the first signs of improvement can appear within days. More energy, better sleep quality, fewer mood swings. Within weeks, you may notice increased mental clarity and reduced anxiety. Within months, the change can be profound. The connection between processed foods and depression is no longer a theory. It's a well-established scientific fact. The question isn't whether your diet affects your mental health, but how much you're willing to do to protect your brain. Your next meal can be the first step toward a clearer mind, a more stable mood, and a fuller life. The choice, literally, is on your plate.